Welcome to the Alcohol-Free Revolution podcast. My name is James Lloyd.
And I'm Steve Smith. We are both former professional drinkers turned qualified alcohol-free coaches.
And we're here to inspire you to explore your best life alcohol-free. Whether you're sober curious, considering taking a break, or already loving life alcohol-free, this podcast is for you. Each week, we'll share ideas, tools, and conversations with the leading voices from within the alcohol-free space.
And our goal is simple: to give you the confidence to try it for yourself with stories and strategies that show just how powerful pressing pause on the booze can be.
I coach high achievers, leaders and entrepreneurs who want to reset and regain control of their relationship with alcohol. I focus on breaking down the neuroscience of drinking, because once you understand what's happening in your brain, everything changes. You can find out more about me at my website, alcoholfreecoach.com. Plus, we've recorded a special bonus episode where Steve interviews me about my journey and my work. Just search The Alcohol-Free Revolution, episode 9.
And I work with high-performing dads, helping them show up more consistently at home and at work, and also in their training, by building resilience and unlocking their true potential through an alcohol-free life. I'm also a qualified USGA ultramarathon coach. You can hear about my story in a bonus episode and connect with me on Instagram at sober.brilliant or at soberilliant.com.
Before we dive in, a quick favour. Please hit follow or subscribe so you don't miss another episode.
And if you enjoy it, give us a 5-star review. It really helps others who are sober curious find the show, and together we can grow the alcohol-free revolution.
Thanks for listening. On with today's show.
Welcome back to the Alcohol-Free Revolution podcast. Today we welcome a legend in the alcohol-free and running space, Mr. Andy Delderfield. I first came across Andy through the Alcohol-Free Runners community, the group he co-founded with Rich Casement. Then, during my own winter adventure last December, I found out he'd been dot watching my progress, and since then I've had the pleasure of joining him and Rich on their Running Dry podcast, now under the new name of Clean Break Chats. And I've wanted to flip the script and get Andy on the other side of the mic ever since. Andy completely speaks my language. He's a passionate runner with some epic achievements under his belt, and he shouts from the rooftop about the power and benefit of movement in alcohol-free life. Andy has been alcohol-free for 6.5 years and had his last drink back in February 2019. He's since gone on to complete multiple marathons and ultra-distance events across deserts and ice fields. He now heads up Clean Break alongside Rich, focusing on mindset, movement, as well as alcohol-free coaching. Clean Break coaches and helps people reach their goals, whether that be 5Ks, 10Ks, half marathons, or indeed ultras, all through a supportive group coaching approach. Earlier this year, Andy completed his 5th marathon, not in just any way, but in a 12-kilo rhino suit, on what could only be described as probably one of the hottest days of the year, raising money for Save the Rhino. Andy's generally one of the most positive, inspiring people I've met on my alcohol-free journey, and it's a real pleasure to have him on the show today. Andy, welcome to the Alcohol-Free Revolution podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Steve. And James, yes.
Welcome along.
That's quite an intro, Steve.
It is quite an intro. I don't really know what to say. I'm kind of like,
oh. Well, you know, we had to.
Can we start with the rhino suit, please?
I've actually, when you say about your rhino suit, something really interesting. My son has just decided to run a marathon in 10 days at the age of 9, and he's raising money for Save the Rhino.
Oh, great stuff.
He's just decided to do that. But we'll start like we always do, Andy, and kind of, if you can run us through what's led you to where you are nowadays.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a journey. I love that word, and I think we use it an awful lot, maybe a little bit overused within the adventure, yes, within the alcohol-free space. But yeah, as in I think when I look back at my drinking, it was fairly standard. It was fairly acceptable. It was fairly normalized. But probably the reality was that, yeah, all those normalized kind of things was actually, it was nothing other than, yeah, not normal in a way. I'd had the pleasure of being able to move my family, and at the time just myself and my wife, to Spain back in 2004. And I think I was in my late 20s at that time, and drinking fairly normally, but then that kind of fusion of a Spanish culture mixed in with an expat lifestyle. My drinking certainly escalated through my 30s. But all very kind of normal in the fact I was a weekend binge drinker. It was kind of Thursday through to Sunday, maybe not Thursday to begin with, maybe Thursday slipped in a bit later. Yeah, drinking at a kind of normal level to people around me. So nothing kind of out of the ordinary, but clearly as my 30s progressed, I think maybe I couldn't see it at the time, but there was an element of control that was being lost, and there was a change in the way I was drinking. Not aware of it really. I was still doing it to have fun, to socialize, to do all those normal things. But actually looking back, there was an element of self-medication. I don't think I'd have ever said that at the time. I couldn't see it maybe before I stopped drinking. And yeah, it just got to a point where, yeah, as we know, alcohol removes our judgment. And I was certainly making some calls that didn't align with who I was or who I wanted to be. And basically a number of things happened. I wouldn't say I ever had a rock bottom, but I feel lucky that I have a loving wife and two lovely kids. And I think if it wasn't for them, I think I was on that kind of precipice, kind of looking down into where alcoholism could take me. But luckily had the support of the network around me to pull me back. So
amazing. So when did that start to, at what stage would you say that started to shift for you? And you started to, I mean, did you take an initial break, or was it like most with your dry January or sober October or whatever? I don't know what they call it in Spain.
No, I'd never ever taken a break at all. So there wasn't this kind of process of years of maybe evaluating it and kind of going, oh, I'll do a dry January. That never ever came into my world at all. There was no need for me to do that. I was in control. Everything was okay in my head. So that kind of normalization of my drinking. The thing, I think, Steve, I was always a bit of a shit drunk. So the reality is that I wasn't ever a very good drinker. I wasn't very good at it. I drank to excess to get drunk. And often was that person in the late at night that would be maybe at a party and be hidden under all the coats in the bedroom kind of thing. I'd slip off and disappear and fall asleep somewhere and not be very good at it, to be honest. And was a bit of a lightweight to a degree, I suppose, but I think not necessarily lightweight, just drank too much too quickly often. So there was always that element. There was always that kind of, my wife would often say, just have a glass of water in between. Don't drink so much so quickly, that kind of thing. And I think as I moved towards, probably late 30s, early 40s, there was just a shift, I think. As the kids got older, it became more visible to them. As in the moment I kind of made that decision to take a break, was around my son's 10th birthday, and I think it was comments coming from him that drunk dad and just bits like that, and the expectation that before they went to bed maybe on a Friday night I maybe passed out on the sofa, and that was kind of, and then kind of waking up at 4:00 in the morning on a regular basis on that sofa, and feeling that kind of anxiety and all of that kind of stuff, and it progressed. It just kind of continued to progress, really, and just got to a point where, I did that normal search, I think, online. Do I have a problem? I got to that stage where it was like, do I have a problem with this? And clearly the answer to that was Google said yes. And it all happened quite quickly. As in, I say it happened quite quickly. I think there was that regular for a number of years of waking up on a Monday morning and just kind of going, I can't do this again. I can't keep on repeating this cycle of this kind of 4-day bender. And around 2016, I ran my first marathon. So during this period, there was this acknowledgement that I needed to try and be a better version of myself. And running came in as a result of that, I think, to do a bit of exercise. And there was very much, if I could run, I could almost justify my drinking. It gave me the permission to drink. And actually it became quite a toxic cocktail in a way, because actually it drove my drinking on further, because instead of me doing the whole, okay, I'm now running, so I won't drink as much, actually that reward mechanism really kicked in. So it was like, if I could run 4 times a week, that means I could justify my weekend drinking. And actually, so it kind of backfired a little bit and actually escalated the consumption at that point. So, and when I kind of look back now, it's that I was running away. It was that kind of, I was using my running as a way, another way of escaping. So escaping with the booze, escaping with alcohol, and just not really dealing very well with being an adult, I think, and a dad and a husband, and the responsibilities that come with that. But yeah, what was the question?
You answered it. No, I mean, there's so much to relate to there. And I stumbled across the other day on a Facebook picture. You get those horrible old memories that pop up. And this was from 2014. And I think I'd just run the Berlin Marathon. And it was a picture of me celebrating with a stein of beer. And that was how I was celebrating. And you think, obviously with your running, I was the same. It was just, you want to almost justify it. But then I would always celebrate the end of every marathon or achievement with an absolute skinful, probably. And yeah, it's interesting hearing you saying that you felt that almost kind of running away from it, and it almost having that feeling of trying to prove to everybody else, or prove to yourself maybe, that you didn't necessarily have a problem. So it sounds like there was a bit of a gap of about 3 years, right, from when you started to take on the running to when you actually then decided to knock the alcohol on the head, full stop. Was that on the back of the running? Was it what drove that? Was it just accumulating feelings?
Yeah, I ran my first London Marathon in 2017. So that was in the April 2017. And it was my second marathon. So I'd done a marathon a year before. It should have been a real celebration. There was this kind of, London Marathon clearly, has been a Brit, has got so much, watching it as a kid, as I grew up, and following that, never ever being interested in doing it necessarily, but when the opportunity kind of rose, it was like, super excited to be able to do that. I ran it for a charity, raised a load of money, and did all of those bits and pieces. And it was but rather than it being this amazing moment, actually, I remember, as in looking back now, as in the morning of the marathon, Emma, my wife, didn't really even say bye to me as I got on the train, as in our relationship was probably in a very difficult situation. And that was primarily because I trained really hard for the marathon over a 16, 20-week period, but I actually ran Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So I could drink Thursday, Friday, Saturday each week. So you can imagine, I'm newish to running, so I'm pushing my body to the new limits that has never been pushed to, and then drinking all weekend like that. So you can imagine what I would be turning up to as a dad and a husband. I was exhausted. I was that escapism pretty much 7 days a week in a way, as in just completely detaching myself from my family. And I think that moment there, completed London, as in even down to the fact that they all came up and supported me. My mum and dad were there. My Emma's parents were there. Emma, the kids, other people. And I actually ran the London Marathon that day, and they were all there at the finish. And I put them on a train, and they all left me so I could go and get absolutely smashed in London. And then got like the last train home at midnight on that day. And I think it just reflects where I was at that moment. And then another year goes by until there's any major change. But clearly those seeds have really been sown now. And then my son turned 10. And like I said, I did that Google search, and I ended up finding an online community, which was 1 Year No Beer. Joined it pretty quickly, kind of was just like, I'm gonna I think I signed up to the 90-day challenge that they did to try and take a break for 3 months. And it was very much I'm just going to do a reset here. This is, I just need to get back in control of this. And that was the aim. And it took me, 9 months of kind of blipping and slipping. I kind of did 50 days. I did 20 days. And then I managed to get get my 90 days up to Christmas that year. So this is 2018, and then drank on Christmas Day. and then just kind of carried on through I think it was then Christmas, New Year, ended up being boozy ski trip, and then came back, and it took me until the end of Feb basically to kind of get to a point where it's just like, do you know what, I'm going to do a year. I think I can see the benefits here. I can start to see, because of the periods I had without it and how much I was feeling in a much better place as a result of it. I was like, okay, let's try a year. So end of Feb 2018, I started on that, and I got to my year as we went into lockdown. So that was that was kind of like the first year was not drinking. The second year was meant to be about challenges and runs and events and Spartans and all of that, and all of that got cancelled going into that second year. And I was just like, but it was we went into lockdown, and I was just so thankful that I wasn't drinking during that period, and I could be present for my family and be there. But with it came a lot of new challenges, which we talk about clarity as being one of the big positives that we get out of going alcohol free, and it certainly is. But I always look at clarity as a double-edged sword, as in it's a wonderful, wonderful thing, but what it results in is the highs are just unbelievable, and potentially you feel them more than you've ever felt them before. So those moments of wonderful moments in your life are just amazing. But sadly, that comes with the opposite, which is the hard moments and the difficult things that life is going to throw at us. You've got to deal with fully. You've got to feel it, or you've got to process it, or you've got to go through it. And I think after a year, I started looking at, well, what was I trying to escape from? What was all this drinking about, and what was that? And I really struggled as we went into kind of that lockdown period, because it was dealing with the regrets of the past. It was dealing with everything, all the reasons why I'd been kind of drinking in the first place, which fundamentally was really came down to just not wanting to grow up and not wanting to have the responsibilities of life. And I had my own business, so there was pressures from my business side. There was pressures from being a dad, from being a husband, from being a son, all the normal stuff.
Yeah.
And then so I had a real kind of dip period, I think, going into that second year, but then came out the other side of that, stronger than ever. And and the next bit was all became about those challenges that I couldn't do during lockdown. And I actually got injured. I ran the London Marathon in my garden during lockdown. So, when I say in my garden, I created I think it was about an 800-meter loop around the house. In Spain, we weren't allowed to go very much further than, it was like 50 meters from your house if you had a dog. We didn't have the hour exercise that you had in the UK. So I'd been sneaking out a little bit at night to do runs and do a little bit.
Tell me you made a model village of London in your garden, please.
I didn't. No, I say that we did build a wall. I can't remember the big finish line the kids built out of boxes for me and stuff. So they did try and build a finish line and everything. But I did that. And in the process, I'd had an injury. My Achilles wasn't very happy that year. And pretty much I got a small rupture in my Achilles as a result of basically it being a route round the house with a left turn, left turn the whole way around without any right turns. And as it put a lot of strain through that. And I basically did that and then didn't run for 8 months after that. Because I had to then go through a load of basically rehabilitation and stuff on my Achilles. Got a big lump on it, and it was pretty difficult. But yes, don't know. Carry on. Ask another question. Before I ramble on. Go on, James.
One thing that, from listening to your story, Andy, thanks for sharing that. One thing that comes across up until the point where you decided you were going to take a prolonged break from the alcohol, one thing that comes across to me is how normal, and I don't mean this in a bad way, how unremarkable it is. And the reason I say that is what you talked about is a very common lived experience. It certainly is mine and Steve's experience. Okay, there's slight deviations around the perimeter, but basically what you've described in terms of getting to midlife, getting into your late 30s and questioning your relationship with alcohol, about is this actually still benefiting me? Is this doing me good? Do things need to change? And we all work within this kind of alcohol-free kind of coaching space in one way or another. And I hear that time and time and time again from people. And that's part of the reason why we've set up this podcast, is to give people the opportunity who are having those thoughts, in midlife, in the late 30s, in their early 40s, that because it does feel very isolating. It does feel like, is it me? Is it me who's just got a problem? And I also, obviously we've all read lots of books about this kind of thing, but this idea of getting to midlife and, the idea of a second mountain, you climb one mountain, with career and family when you're in your 20s and your 30s, and you get to 40 and you're like, what am I going to do now? Am I going to carry on climbing the same mountain, or am I going to look for something different with a bit more purpose in my life? And you've described it so aptly there, and it just rings true with what we've heard it so many times from people who've come on this pod, and ourselves. And I really want to draw that out and highlight that to people that are listening, because when you're going through that, and it's, some people call it a middle essence, like an adolescence, a middle essence.
Yeah.
And it's so common. It's such a shared experience. And speaking to people about it, and, the power of community, and realizing that actually most people are going through this in midlife, and most people are starting to question the role of alcohol in their life, and whether or not it is making their life better or whether it's making their life worse. And I really wanted to draw that out from what you're saying. One of the other things that you mentioned, Andy, that I wanted to go back to, was you talked about how alcohol was not aligning with your view on life and your goals and who you were. And I think what you're referring to is your identity. And I'd like to ask you about how, when you removed alcohol, how did you go about changing your identity?
It's a good question. I think I'd already started doing it with the running. So there was this kind of, the shift was already happening of trying to, with the exercise, I suppose I'd always played rugby. So I've always been in sport. I look back at my rugby career and I played rugby to be able to drink. It wasn't, it was very, very obvious that was the combination there. It wasn't, I didn't play rugby to necessarily be fitter and stronger and all of those things. It was all about the social side of it. So when I finished playing rugby, there was this shift into that what next, and that's where the running kind of came from. So it was almost easy in a way, and I think this is why the combination of doing something like going alcohol free and finding your new passion of what that looks like is so important. I think when we don't change the room, or we just kind of continue doing the same things as we did before, then that's where it can be very difficult to remove or make that big change in our lives. So
For sure.
I think being able to change with the identity bit, as in it was, I started, as in I think I got really into my kind of alcohol-free journey, really. And that became, even though at the beginning I certainly didn't define myself as that person, because actually that really scared me. I was just taking a short break to reset. But as the time went on and that progressed, it was really the inner work that I did on myself, which was going on a massive personal development journey, and really digging into the psychology side of it all and what was going on in my head. What was the beliefs I had around who I was and bits like that. And I think doing that work there, that helped me to then move forward to who I've now become, in a way, which is that, looking into things like, well, what is my purpose here? Why am I on this planet? What do I want to get from this life?
That's why we're all doing this, right? You do some coaching as well, Andy. That's why we're all doing this, right? Because it's led us to some purpose, and it's to help other people who want to change their relationship with alcohol. I don't know if that's necessarily true for you, Andy, but I'm pretty sure that's true for me and Steve. It certainly is for me.
Yeah, totally. So it's that. So it's like, how do you redefine yourself? Well, I've redefined myself because by going on a path that has allowed me to learn an awful lot about who I am as a person. As in, there was an awful lot of self-sabotage, I think, going on, in the fact that maybe I didn't love the person I was. I didn't like who I was becoming. And I think that process of learning who I am and that self-love stuff, as in it's that whole situation, is, if unless we get to know who we are and what we want and what drives us forward, then we just continue on that hamster wheel, don't we? We just continue doing what society almost tells us we should be doing rather than what we could be doing. Yeah. As in it's, so I think that the redefinition, as in it wasn't immediate, clearly, but I think the running really helped with that focus. It was that I wanted to become, fitter, stronger, and endurance was what I found is where my love was for that, and it feels. It's been a long time, as in it's coming up to I'll be 7 years alcohol free in February, and the changes that have happened in that period have gone from the running is one part of it, then doing my coaching qualifications that then followed, and I've now been a coach for almost 4 years, and then combining suddenly this. Okay, so I define myself now as an alcohol free runner. And that became what I defined myself. I mean, I'm proud to say that. And I wasn't proud initially. There was a load of shame around it. Yeah, being alcohol free. As in I think sadly, again, for us, for people not to drink and to take a break from alcohol, it means we must have had a really, really serious problem. And I think that kind of being judged as, well, now you don't drink, so there must have been this huge rock bottom. You must have, had a serious problem. You lost control to something that most of the population seemed to have control over. That led to a shame. So there was shame around it, and not wanting to put my hand up and go, I'm proud to be alcohol free. And it took me a couple of years to get to that point. And instead of just kind of moving forward, I then went the other way and went totally in, which was then I created a group called Alcohol Free Runners. So it was like let's really go for it and put exactly what it is out there, and be proud of that fact. And then with the coaching and it's just kind of continued to develop over the past few years of where that then takes me. But I would say that definition of I'm an alcohol-free runner, and hopefully I also look at myself now as a good husband, a stable dad, which were my original whys. It was all about my relationships and where I was letting that down. So where maybe when I was drinking, I didn't feel like I was a good dad, I didn't feel like I was a good husband. Hopefully I can define myself as that these days as well.
And
that's such a big
I mean, it's as you say there. I mean, it's you said there you weren't maybe that sort of self-love, and we kind of have when we drink, we think we love ourselves, right? When we've had those drinks, we think it's great, but we're masking kind of what's behind that. And then you started to then talk about endurance, which then took once you took the alcohol out the picture, and a similar story to myself as well, is that one thing I heard that you said to me one of the first times we met is that removing alcohol taught me that I could do hard things. And then you started to find that relationship with doing hard things by stepping your running up just ever so slightly. And then coming full circle to the rhino suit, which we'll probably finish up. But what was the next stage for you after marathons? Was it, I know you stepped up to the Ice Ultra, or was there
there was nothing in between. No, we went from as in 2020, so this is February 2020, my business partner, who'd never been into running ever, but is a bit of an adventurer. He's a good climber and done lots of outdoor adventures and stuff, but never running. Entered this event in the northern extremes of Sweden, and I was like, I can't really believe you're doing this, Chris. Where's this come from, kind of thing? And he was just like, I love the cold, I love the ice, and I saw this event, and I was like, but it's a running event. It's like this big multi-day ultra, and he was like, but I'm just gonna stomp it. I've worked it out that I can just stomp through it and get it done. And so he trained really hard and went off to the northern extremes of Sweden in the Arctic Circle in 2020. And I followed his dot for 5 days as he did this multi-day ultra event, which was 250k across the Arctic Circle, and watched him complete this epic journey. And I was just completely blown away, that he was able to do it to a degree. and the experience that he had as a result of it. And I'd been doing a couple of marathons at that point, but nothing more. Didn't even really have any understanding of ultra running. Probably didn't at that point, wouldn't have been able to tell you what an ultra distance was. And he came back from that, and I was just like, oh, I've just followed you for the whole week, and I've just been blown away by the event, what you've achieved. I think I'd love to do it. And he just said, well, why don't we book for 2022? Yeah. I'll go back and do it again with you, because I've just had the most amazing experience. I really would love to do it again. So we literally booked it the week before the world came to a standing halt with COVID. So, and then I injured myself. So then didn't run for 9 months. And then it was the February of 2021. It's a year away from this multi-day event I've entered, and I haven't ran. And I remember going out and doing my first 5K, not even too sure whether I was even going to be able to do it and run again. And I literally, from February 2021 through to February 2022, I just went on this epic running journey and got fitter and faster, and started running in the mountains and doing trail runs, and just found this whole new world of running where time didn't matter. All the rules were thrown out of the window of what marathon running was. And just the process was just unbelievable. And I turned up in February with huge imposter syndrome, thinking, who am I? I'd never even ran a 50K event. I'd obviously done 50K in training by that stage, but rocked up, and it was 5 days, 250 kilometers. Started off in the northern extremes of Sweden, minus 32 degrees. And went on this epic Arctic adventure, which I just totally loved in every it was just unbelievable. No doubt that I wasn't going to be able to complete it. I'd done all the work in training. I turned up consistently, being alcohol free allowed me just to keep on pushing myself more and more and more. So by the time I got there, even though I felt completely out of my comfort zone, I just got on with it, got the job done, and pushed myself to limits that I never knew that I had, and got to the finish line, and just that experience, and the putting myself in a really uncomfortable position and difficult situation and scary. And I got frostbite and on my ear, on my fingers. I love the sensation in 3 of my fingers for 6 months after. That was because I took a picture of the sunset, didn't realize how cold it was, took my gloves off, took the picture. My phone shut down because it was so cold as soon as I took it out to take the picture. And what I didn't realize is how cold it had become, and my inner gloves, which were wet from sweat, froze. And then I put my main glove back on, and I had 8K to go to the finish line that day. And basically I couldn't warm my hands up for that whole, which was like 8K was probably about an hour and a half, maybe longer, 2 hours in the conditions. Yeah. So, but it's those moments, as in I can still picture that moment in my head with the sun going down over the ice fields in front of me. And it was just to be in those positions, isolated on your own. You had other people around you. The field is very small. It's only 30 runners. And it was just unbelievable. And I think it just sparked something inside me, which was this want to, I don't know. Some people people ask me why all the time. Why'd you do it? And I'm Steve. You'll be asked the same. I don't know, James, how far you've gone with your running.
I do 6K 3 times a week. That's enough for me.
Okay.
Thanks.
You say that. You never know.
Did it this morning. It's beautiful. Loved it. Great way to start the day.
But it's this why is I know, and I think we talk about this quite a lot, is the importance of stepping outside of our comfort zone and into that discomfort space, whether it's that fear, whatever we want to look at it, is really, really important for our growth. And I think all the magic happens when we're in that space, as in it's where we build resilience, is where we really get to know ourselves. It's where we see how we respond under pressure and in situations that we've not put ourselves in before. And life can do this to us, and life does do this to us because curveballs are thrown at us all the time in life. but for me, it's almost become a bit of a, well, I can put myself into these situations. So when life does throw it at me, I've got the toolkit, and
It's
that's
that
what it's
emotional
done.
resilience. Yeah, see,
Totally.
Yeah,
it's
Totally.
yeah. Anything that has value to us isn't easy. Things that are hard to do are the most valuable to us, and that's why you do them, right? That's why people run marathons. That's why they climb mountains. That's why people go to the moon, because it's hard, and with that comes enormous value.
well,
In doing some of my research for you coming on, Andy, I listened to your appearance on Over the Influence podcast, and you talked a lot about consistency. And I think that's
yeah,
something that people who are thinking about alcohol free perhaps don't consider that much, but that compounding effect, that compound interest effect of consistently healthy habits, the idea of alcohol being, a keystone habit, the big domino, when you push it over, that it has this cascade effect of positive aspects on all other aspects of, I'm losing my words here, aspects of health, diet, exercise, all those kind of things. Can you just speak a little bit about that, about how, how the consistency compounding really got you to where you are now with your running?
yeah. It's interesting because I think with the running bit, as in we live in a world, don't we, of instant gratification, and
We do.
I think and that's, we all want it now, and we all want to push ourselves, and with running, or with actually anything that we do, I think there's that real drive that I want the results, I want it tomorrow. But actually, with what I've done with the running, I've just seen that, like you say, that compound interest by just turning up and just keep on going with it. And it's not about me running faster and further all the time. It's just about just keep on doing what I'm doing, and the
Showing up.
results will come. Yeah, the
Mm.
results will come on their own. And it's, my mentality around it's changed an awful lot, especially with my marathon running, as in chasing times, chasing that all the time, as it takes the joy out of it for me now.
I get that.
And actually, when I'm ready, if long as I keep on turning up and keep on being consistent, the wins will happen.
Mm.
So instead of chasing the wins, it's almost believing in the process and knowing that if I just keep on going, even as I get older, I can still get faster. I still can push myself more. And I've been on I think at the moment, as in I ended up going plant-based, which was a thing that I never, ever expected to do. I've reverted back at the moment. This year's been a bit of the last couple of years have been pretty full on. Those curveballs that life throws at us have been pretty deadly at times, literally. I've lost both my parents. I got diagnosed with, so after that ice ultra, I got diagnosed with prostate cancer. Which, those curveballs and talking about as in that resilience that building up by doing the ultras, that's without doubt helped me massively through these last couple of years. We just relocated back to the UK after living in Spain for 21 years. Huge moment of change, and again, it's knowing that because I've kept on turning up for myself, that there's just this element of resilience. I don't always see it. I there is an element within me. I've also had an ADHD diagnosis in the last 18 months, so there's a lot of self-negative kind of criticism that goes on in my head, that I'm still working on, still dealing with, and maybe a lot of these things that I'm doing is about trying to prove something to either myself or to other people around me as well, because there is this kind of this negative chatter. I don't see myself as anything other than fairly ordinary. I've done some extraordinary things, but I still play it down within myself of what my achievements have been, and I still kind of look at it and going, well, I've just become a bit consistent, haven't I? Wow. Yeah.
Coming off the back, that year that you've just described sounds, pretty tough, right? Losing both parents, cancer diagnosis. What would, but you seem pretty grounded and level and pretty happy, to be honest, based on what I can see. How
Yeah.
do you think you would have dealt with that year had you still been drinking?
The real scary thing is, James, I don't think I would have got the cancer diagnosis because, well, I would have, but I wouldn't have got it at the point I did, because it was actually because I'd given up alcohol, because I had more clarity, because I was looking at how can I improve myself, because I'd gone plant-based, it was kind of what was the next thing. As in, I've learned very much the controllables is a mantra that I carry with me since being diagnosed with cancer. And actually Andy Ramage, that I've done a lot of work with, sent me that as a one-liner when I told him I'd had my cancer diagnosis. And if I wasn't kind of taking control of these things, of what I was putting in my body, it was almost one of the things that came up from that was what's the next thing I can do here? Well, I can take control of my health. I can be proactive about my health. I can either wait to see whether I get symptoms or things happen, or I can actually go and get checked up, as in have a checkup and have an MOT and go and be proactive about that. And I think basically without being alcohol free, without going plant-based, without making these decisions, I'd have never gone to that the appointment. I would have never had the blood tests when I had them done. I would have never managed to catch the fact I had prostate cancer really early, which was really lucky, because prostate cancer is one of those silent builders inside you that at my age as well, at the time I was 47. So I was well before the checkups would normally be. And really, as in, that wouldn't have happened unless I'd been making these changes in my life. So the reality really is I just felt so lucky.
Yeah.
There was gratitude was just massive for making the choices I did. So I got that diagnosis.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even though, it's an awful moment. You never want to be sat there with a doctor who tells you, you've got cancer. As in, it was awful. As in, it was just, I couldn't really believe it. The whole way through the process, I was like, well, clearly I've not got cancer. They're going to find something else. And then the moment that happened, but again, it was, I can get through this. I can take control of it. I've got the resilience to deal with it, and then turning it into a bit of a positive in a way. I felt lucky that got to that point. Yeah.
It's something that I can relate to, because I had 2 cancer diagnoses last year. I'm okay now.
Okay.
I had radiotherapy in December last year, but one thing that I took out of that really struck me, I was the same as exactly what you've described. When you sit down and the doctor says you've got these results, they're positive. It's like being hit by a bomb. And it took me probably about a week or so to kind of process it in my own head. And after that, I was kind of, okay, what's next? Let's go. Let's you just get on with it. And my learning from that was that, when you're looking after yourself and you're in good health, you just process these things, because what else are you going to do? Whereas when alcohol's in the mix, you're never really dealing with life stresses. You're constantly putting them on the back burner and like, I'm just going to numb myself for tonight and I'll come back to it tomorrow. And it never goes away. Your brain never gets the time to properly process it. And even the hardest things in life, and cancer is one of those, as is loss of a parent, I don't honestly believe there really is anything that could happen to me that I couldn't process through by not drinking. I often sort of think, and maybe you guys can relate to this, would there ever be a time where I literally just went berserk and something would happen in my life and I would just literally just go straight for the nearest bar and get absolutely hammered? And I just don't think anything could possibly happen to me that would make me do that, because I have the knowledge of that's only going to make the situation 10 times worse. And if you just give yourself and your brain time to process anything that comes along, and just one other thing there, one of the things I think also that comes out of having difficult times in your life like that and allowing it to process is you build even greater mental resilience. Going through the hardest things in life, which can be cancer or the death of a relative, that is where you build resilience for the next time. And I honestly believe that even the worst situations that you come up against, there are positives to draw from that in terms of it does make you stronger. It really does.
That's why I think, James, everyone should run a marathon.
I love that.
We're getting there.
I'm scared to run a marathon.
So you're scared because it's
well, no, the only reason I say that is and it's for a completely separate topic, but I'm worried about the actual effect on my body and my joints of doing something like that. I get it from doing something difficult and doing something hard. I respect you greatly for that. I run because I want to stay fit and healthy. And you actually touched upon it there, actually, where you said that constantly trying to beat your time and all things like that takes the joy out of it. And that's the one reason why I do 6K 3 times a week, and that's it. That's my limit on running. I don't try and improve the time. I don't try and go further, because I don't want to feel disappointed after a run because I'm slower than the last time. So for me, that's why I've not kind of got into doing a marathon, but tell me otherwise.
Well,
it's a mindset work there around.
You can coach me on that.
Yeah, Andy, what I think he needs is a couple of running coaches to help him on his way. What do you know any?
Maybe.
It's always the danger of hanging around people like us.
It is, yeah. It absolutely is.
I'm kind of going to come back a little bit to the running there, and more so just from I know for me, and I know we've talked about this before, is that actually is finding yourself out on those longer runs, those longer trails, and realizing just when it's being able to do those difficult things and be in your own head for such a long time, and that also has built the resilience for you to deal with what's been a pretty rotten couple of years and build that from there. And that's something I can certainly relate to. And how do you feel about that, and how do you find yourself when you're out in those moments of kind of solitude and longer sessions out on the trails or in the ice fields or indeed the desert?
Don't mention the desert. The desert was evil. I wouldn't
thaw out those fingers somehow, right?
I wouldn't recommend that one for anyone.
Right.
It was a step too far. But yes, because just to expand on that note, I did similar event in the desert in Namibia. Only 6 weeks after my cancer treatment. It was maybe a step too far. So but how do the solitude and I don't Steve, I don't have a regular meditation practice. Even though I know the reasons why meditation is really, really key and important, but when I actually reflect on it, I do actually have a regular meditation practice, and it's when I go running. So it's wrapped up into that time that I've got on feet. Yeah, not every run. If I'm doing an interval session, so clearly that's a focus session. But then I do a lot of running at a very easy pace. I really believe in kind of zone 2 training and the benefits of that. So actually, almost 70 to 80% of my runs are done at quite an easy pace, and it's those easy pace runs where I don't have to think about anything. I can just zone out completely. And it's different on different days, isn't it? I think, as in some days I have a total business meeting and there's a whole plans are made and ideas come to me. Other days I go out and run and I can't remember the run when I get back to the front door, because I've just completely gone into a state of flow and just in the moment and enjoying it. And I think I touched on it a second ago, just gratitude. As positive psychology coaches, it's kind of the simplest tool in my toolkit is gratitude. And I think often when I'm out on a run and I'm feeling like it's a bit tough, or I don't want to be out there, or the weather's a bit crap, especially after coming back to the UK, experiencing that a little bit more, that just how lucky I feel to be able just to do what I'm doing. So gratitude that my body allows me to do what I'm doing. Gratitude that my family give me the space and time to go out and chase these kind of wild adventures, and gratitude that, just how lucky I am to be living this life. Yeah. And I think the running is so, there's so many cross purposes in it. Yeah. It's not just about burning calories. It's not just about beating goals or going faster. For me, it's my all-round well-being tool. That combined with being alcohol-free, those two things together are my superpowers. They're where I get time to reflect whilst I'm out for a run. I get, as in, look at there's kind of foundations, isn't there? We talk about in life of what's kind of important, the basics. And that's alcohol-free for me is one of those. It's a non-negotiable. Sleep, nutrition, movement, time for yourself, and connection. And for me, going out for a run and being alcohol-free, all of those things are one step further forward because of it.
All of
And
those things that you've just spoken about there, Andy, sorry, just to jump in,
yeah,
you know, you spoke about sleep, nutrition, exercise. Did they all come from, were they all triggered by removing alcohol? Was removing alcohol the
for
catalyst that led on to all of those healthy habits?
the consistency with those habits. Yeah, I'd
Yeah.
probably
Mm.
over the years, I would have spent a bit of time dieting and being aware of my nutrition.
Mm.
Sometimes, like connection, as in connection. Clearly, again, connection comes in two ways for me. It's not just social connection. Clearly, that's really important. Spending time with like-minded people and connecting in that way. But actually, for me, connection is about connecting with myself, connecting in, hearing where I'm at. Yeah, having
Mm.
that kind of that time. And when I'm out running, that's exactly what I get to do. How do I feel today? Yeah, asking myself those questions. That's so often, because when we're drinking, how often do you when you were drinking, how often did you ask yourself, how do I feel today?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
exactly.
wasn't a question I ever asked myself. Yeah, wasn't
Yeah.
wasn't yeah, just wasn't something I would have even kind of like looked at.
Just on that connection piece, which is huge. I think what you spoke about there in terms of being around like-minded people, wherever they're at on their journey, whether it would be, you know, just starting out, even, you know, sober curious, or even, you know, a week in, or even sharing, you know, sharing um, experiences of an alcohol-free lifestyle, like, you know, we've been doing today. I think that community is so powerful. And one thing that Steve and I are launching in the near future is a community around the alcohol-free revolution. You know, where we're going to
Yeah,
invite people to come and join us, you know, in a room just like we are now, and have conversations like we've had right now. And we'd love for you to come on at some point, and perhaps, you know, meet some of our listeners. If anyone's interested in joining that community, which I think we're going to launch in November, I think, we're just kind of doing some exploratory work on it at the moment. There'll be a link in the show notes where you can just drop us an email to our mailbox and just express interest. If you just want to, if you're interested in joining the Alcohol Free Revolution community, just drop us an email saying interested, and we'll come back to you with more information when we've started to firmen up a little bit more. But that's coming probably next month, I think, from Steve and I. And Andy, we'd love you to join us one time on a Zoom call.
love that. Yeah, as an community for me has been core to being alcohol free. I think even though I think we live in a bit of an alcohol free bubble, I think at the moment, in the fact that probably the same as you is that your social media is very much pushing you towards inspirational kind of stuff, and yeah, being alcohol free and personal development space and everything like that's what I see is the world is, but I also know that that's not the world that
Mm.
my kids see through their social media. Yes, and what other people see. So I think it feels that the alcohol free revolution is certainly happening, but I think there's so far to go.
Oh yeah.
There is so much still to do, as in it feels that within the space that we're working in, that everyone's an alcohol-free coach, that there's just people doing this everywhere. But the reality is, for most people, they still don't even know it's an option. They don't
No,
even know it's a choice. Yeah,
I
this is a,
noticed that. Yeah, I noticed that when I tell people in real life. Do you know what I mean? When people say, you know, and ever since earlier this year when I got made redundant, and I'm now doing this full time, and people say to me, "So what do you do?" And I say, "Oh, what's that?" You know, and you're so right, because when you're on the when you're on your social media, that's all you see. So you're right. You think everybody's out doing just this, but you're right. There's so much further to go, and yeah, definitely.
I love the. I'm going to get this wrong because I always mess up quotes. This is one of the things I would really like to get better at, is being able to just roll off some quotes. But you must have heard the Desmond. Is it Desmond Tutu
Yeah.
quote about the fact that we're spending too much time pulling people out of the river,
Yes.
and actually what
yeah.
we need to do is go upstream and
Mm.
find out why they're falling in the first place. And I
Yeah.
think for me that is just key to where I'm sitting,
Yeah.
trying to with the work I'm doing now. So myself and Rich of over years to get to this stage. I've had an alcohol-free running community now for a few years on Facebook, which is a free community. But from a coaching capacity, it was always, where was I going to sit with my coaching? How was I going to help people? How was I going to start going upstream and trying to help people not to fall in? And the difficulty is within the alcohol-free space. I think it's people don't want to hear it. Yeah, people don't want to be told that they need to take a break from alcohol. Even though, in my opinion, every single adult in their adult life should take 100 days break from alcohol, because unless you do that, you don't know you've got a choice. You don't know there is another option and there is a way.
You haven't got the data, have you?
Exactly,
and it's no comparison. You just don't know.
And it's kind of with what we're doing at Clean Break is that we're positioning ourselves as running coaches for the alcohol free or the sober curious, and it's almost coming in as a way of, I often believe there needs to be an element of stealth in our approach, because there's this element of, all I want to do is share the joys of what I've experienced as a result of removing alcohol from my life. I don't think that alcohol needs to be removed from society. I don't have any belief.
It's never going to happen.
That is needed, because I think there is a place for alcohol, sadly, and that will always exist. But what I do want to be able to share is to say that you can make a change, you can make a choice here. And if anyone says to you, you take 100-day break from alcohol, and your response to that is, how would I ever do that? I think the answer there is, it's in your answer, in the fact that, well, maybe you should try. Because if you don't believe you can do it, then I'm not saying that you've got a problem, but there is a reliance on a substance.
There's a dependency. There's obviously a bit of a stigma around dependency, because it tends to suggest alcoholism. But if you can't go out and socialize without alcohol, you have a dependency on alcohol. If you can't relax without alcohol, you have a dependency on alcohol. It's just semantics.
I think it's why I like the word reliant. So removing that dependency and bringing in reliant just changes that, even though it's pretty much the same. But
I get that.
You're not physically dependent on this, but we know. Was I addicted to alcohol? Well, it's an addictive substance, and I was consuming it 4 days a week. There's a high chance there was an addiction, physical addiction to it. Did I have shakes and all of those things that we associate with when I stopped drinking? No, I didn't. Yeah, but that doesn't mean I wasn't physically addicted to a product. And that's the reality of it. But it's trying to, like I say, it's trying to get people to, as in with the coaching that we're doing, it's getting people to either it's the what next. They've already gone alcohol free, and it's the what next. And I think that kind of combination, that for me, peas and carrots, alcohol free and running, same thing.
There's so many ties.
And or that you're a runner and you're looking for you go to Pilates, you do all your nutrition's on point, you do all these things, but on a Friday night and a Saturday night, you're still going down the pub and getting absolutely smashed every week, and that's still part of your routine, and you're trying to get quicker at that marathon, and you've plateaued, and you can't kind of work out why. You're doing everything right, but the elephant in the room stays there as booze, and you're not even addressing it. So being that supportive space for someone who wants to improve their running, and have support to take a break from alcohol during the process.
It's like you said earlier there, Andy, and I wrote it down, netting off drinking. This idea that, you can go out running 4 days a week and it allows you to go and drink for the other 3. It doesn't work. It's like people who, go out on a bender and then go to the gym the next day, and it doesn't work like that. You can't
sweat it out in the sauna.
You can't sweat it off. You can't net it out. Your body's recovering from the effects of alcohol. You go and do like a load of exercise, you're making it worse. You're killing your recovery. It just doesn't work. It's a myth.
Not at all. I turned up to many runs on a Sunday morning with kind of red wine tinted teeth.
Yeah.
and thought that was cool. Look at me. I can prove, I drank a bottle and a half of red wine last night, and look at me, I'm running a 10K in the morning.
I'll pay it back.
Yeah. The pain and the rest of the day. Oh dear. Yeah.
So we have to ask, the rhino suit.
Yeah.
I was watching your social media and your video from inside that rhino suit, and that day looked absolutely brutal. Tell us a little bit about how that came around.
The rhino suit came around. Oh, how long have we got? We haven't got very long left. No. The rhino suit came around because of going to do the Desert Ultra. So I've been in Namibia, and I came over the line with a guy, and and he basically turned around to me and said, if you're ever in London, come and stay with us. I was running the London Marathon that next year. I went and stayed with them, and it just so happened his wife was the CEO of Save the Rhino. So this is the year before. I was running the London Marathon, not for Save the Rhino, was with them all weekend, around the rhinos all weekend, and pretty much they convinced me during that period that I should run as a rhino the following year. I kind of didn't commit to it at that point, but then did. And I just so happened I was going to Kenya as well that year to do another multi-day ultra event across the savannas of Kenya, which was actually supported by Save the Rhino with a charity linked to that event. So I also had that coming up in the September. So I ended up raising money for Save the Rhino to do the event in Kenya, and then followed that 6 months later with running London. So that's kind of how it all came about, that I got connected in with it all, and it was wonderful because I'd actually been out in Kenya and seen what I was running in Kenya. Yeah. I'd seen some black rhinos, and it was just, and it just all kind of came together that it was the right thing to do. And it just so happened to be, I'd set a challenge for myself to run 10 marathons in my 40s. And actually that was number 14 and was my last marathon in my 40s. It was my 5th London Marathon, and it just seemed apt.
Amazing.
and a good idea at the time.
There you go. I'll leave that one, I think. Andy, it's been amazing having a conversation, and thanks so much for coming on pod. If you'd like to just kind of remind our listeners where they can find out more about you and Rich and the community and the coaching. Yeah,
basically our website is I'm going to get this wrong. take-a-cleanbreak.com. Yeah, take-a-cleanbreak.com. And if you go on there, it's if you scroll down to the bottom of the page, it then gives you all our offerings and what we're doing. And we've got a membership that we're running with different packages and stuff for group coaching. We've got one-to-one coaching. We've got a 28-day alcohol-free challenge on there. Loads of different resources from us. Obviously links to our own podcast that we do as well. So there's loads of information on the site of what we're up to and what we're doing. And with the aim really just to share the joy.
Yeah, that's what it's all about.
Share Absolutely. The joy.
And in case that isn't right, I'll make sure I'll put it in the show notes and it'll be right, so you can click on it there. But I'm sure it is. Andy, it's been great chatting to you, and thank you so much for coming on today.
Thanks, Andy.
No worries. It's been a pleasure. All right, cheers guys.
Take care. Bye-bye.